Hey everybody, and welcome to another Dorico video. Today I'm going to be running you through 7 amazingly handy tips for formatting text in your documents. Let's say you want to add color to your title so that it appears on all the parts so you don't have to change it in every single spot. Well, these are some of the handy tricks you can use in some of the places you didn't know that you can actually format your text. Now, a quick disclaimer on these 7 great tips. Some of these were instituted with the newest version of Dorico 6.1. So if you haven't upgraded yet, check out my video here to get all the details on what's new, but don't be surprised if you're using an older version and some of these don't work. So here we go with 7 really great tips for text formatting here in Dorico Pro. Okay, so our first tip we're going to use is actually one that's pretty easy, but it's something that you may not have thought about before, which is character styles. Character styles in Dorico allow us to format text in a variety of different ways, and it allows us to be able to kind of recall them as little pieces so that we can bold something here, make something italic, strike something out, make it larger, smaller, and we can just highlight it and we can have a uniform set. These are very similar to text formats in Microsoft Word, where let's say you wanted to always put a bold word, you could use a character style to go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the character styles menu. So under the library menu, we can go down to character styles. Now by default, Dorico doesn't have very many character styles. It has all caps, metronome marks, and it has music text. But we can add any that we think that we need. So for example, if we hit the plus sign down here, we can make one, and I'm going to make one for superscript, so I'm going to call it super. Now there's a reason why I'm using a shorter name, and that's because we can actually recall these using text tokens in places where you can't get to the menu, and I'll show you that later in the video. So that's why I'm going to use a kind of a shorter name. And from here, I have all of these different options for what I want to do. And in this case, I want to go ahead and check this, and I'm going to enable the superscript. Any text block in the program, I can go ahead and I can activate that superscript. So let's create a text block here, and we're going to say open for solos, but I'm going to put an asterisk there. I'm going to put a 2, and then I want to make it superscript. So I'm going to come down here under my character styles, which is this A, and I'm going to choose my super. And you can see it formatted my 2 as a superscript. This way I can reuse this anytime I want. Now, this is something you probably could have done fairly easily with other tools, but let's say we wanted to do something a little bit crazier. Let's say we wanted to have a red color for text. So if I go back under character styles, I could make one called red. And then down here under my foreground color, which is the color of the font, I can go ahead and activate that, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose a red color from my swatches here. So here's a nice red, and now I can again go back into my text block and I can highlight the word for, and then I can just come down here to red. Now it's true, I could have just assigned that over here in the text inspector, but this is a way of making sure it's always the same red and I can use it in multiple different places. Tip number 2 here for text formatting has to do with markup language in Dorico. Now this is pretty out in the weeds, but in specific dialogues where you can't otherwise format text, we can actually add a small amount of formatting to words, characters, and other things so that we can actually get a look without having to kind of go in and edit the boxes individually. So looking at my title here of Late Night Blues, let's say I wanted to have the word night be italic. So if I was to go into the project info under the file menu and go down to project info, you'll see that I don't have any options to add text formatting. But if I was to say put an asterisk in front and behind the word night, watch what happens in the document. You can see that it is now italic and it removed the bold formatting that was in this text block to begin with. So this is a really great tool for adding a little bit of pizzazz. And the nice thing is it is independent of the text block. So you can see if I scroll over here to my title page, it again used the italic there, and it was independent of the formatting of that text block, which is really helpful. Now let's say you wanted to make it bold and italic. So if I went back into the project info and I was to this time put 3 asterisks in front of and behind that word, you can see that it actually made it bold and italic. So you can also just do bold if you want to. So this time I'm going to go back into the project info. Again, it's under the file menu, or it's Command I as the shortcut. And under the composer, I'm going to go ahead and put 2 asterisks before and after my last name, and you'll see that it actually bolded my last name. These are really handy tools because they work in a lot of different windows. I can also put in a small amount of italic in the midst of a large block of bolding if I go back into my properties panel, and this time I'm going to put just a single asterisk in front and behind my letter of my first name, and you'll see it will just italic just that one letter. So you can actually do kind of a nested string of these. So remember, 1 asterisk is italic, 2 asterisks is bold, and 3 asterisks is both bold and italic. On both my Patreon page and my website, I do have all of these text tokens and markup languages written out for you on a document. So if you go to my website at larsenjazz.com or my Patreon page, you'll be able to actually access that, and so you'll be able to download it and have it right at the ready as you're working on your next document. So for my third text secret, I'm going to add a line break in the middle of a set of words where you couldn't otherwise put in a line break. So let's say I wanted my first name and my last name to be on 2 different lines. Well, unfortunately, I can't put in a carriage return here in this dialog, so it won't actually let me insert that line break. I also can't put a line break in the text token, so when I call up that text token, it is going to be formatted the way it looks here, but there is a workaround. Now this one is a little bit silly, but what I need to do is I need to open up some kind of text editor, whether it's in Dorico or Microsoft Word or anything else where I can enter a return. So I'm going to use this text block here. I'm going to go in and I'm going to put in a couple of returns. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put my cursor on the second line, and then I'm going to hit the back arrow. And you can see it highlighted sort of something toward the end of that first line, which is actually the line break. And then I'm just going to hit my good old regular Command-C or copy, Control-C on Windows. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go back into my project info, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste the thing I just copied here. Now, it looks like it just entered a space, but watch what happens over there on the side of the document. You can see it actually inserted a carriage return. Now, it did go ahead and break my bold that I had put in, so I'm going to go ahead and put that back. So now that I have that carriage return, which is this weird-looking space in the middle of my document, I can actually put a line break inside of a text box where you couldn't otherwise put that in. Now do note you're going to have to reformat your text blocks in the engrave menu to make room when you add that return. It's really common in layout names to want to put something like the list of instruments a performer will play. But Dorico puts it all in one line, and because it's a text token, there's no way to format that text token because every single word would be the same. But using the techniques I just showed you, we can combine them together to have custom formatting in a layout name. So the first thing we're going to do is make a little more room for our layout name. So I'm going to go under my engrave options, and I'm going to go to my first template, which is the one that is controlling this layout name. And just for argument's sake for right now, I'm going to go ahead and take this layout name box, and I'm going to make it really tall so that there's plenty of room for my text to occupy it. Now do remember, by default, Dorico uses the right side template, so I needed to copy the left to the right to make them the same. I hit apply and close. And now you can see I have tons of room in the upper corner for lots of different text. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to make a custom formatting for this layout name. By default, you can see there is no formatting. It's just simple text. So we're going to go under my setup and I'm going to right click on my name and I'm going to go in and I'm going to add in some of my asterisks as I showed you before. So I want the word alto to be bolded. And then I want the word saxophone to be italic. And then I'm going to paste in another return, and I'm going to add in another instrument that I might want this person to play, because he's going to play alto clarinet. And again, I'm going to paste in another return, and I'm going to do alto drum as well. So now when I click off, you will see I have the top line bolded and the subsequent lines italic, and they're broken up onto separate lines. So let me run you through those steps again really quickly. The first thing I had to do is I had to copy a carriage return from a text block. Then I went under setup and I went to the name of my part and I went ahead and I renamed the layout, and then I pasted in those returns wherever I wanted them to appear, and then I used the asterisk formatting to go ahead and format my document. Okay, so our next text tip has to do with using the style token in Dorico. Now this one was new to me when they upgraded to Dorico 6.1, because this allows us to do some pretty crazy text formatting in, for example, the project info pane. So let's say not only do I want my title to be italic, but I want the word blues to be the color blue. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go under my library and I'm going to go under character styles, and then I'm going to make a new style called blue. Then I'm going to go down to my foreground color and I'm going to set that to blue, and I'm going to hit OK. Then we're going to go into the project info pane again, and this time before the word blue I'm going to put in a text token. Now this is a little bit complex, so bear with me here. So I'm going to start it with a brace and an at, and then I'm going to type the word style. Then it's a colon. Now I need to use the name of the character style I'm accessing, which in this case was blue. Then it is at brace, and then after the word blues, I'm going to go brace at / the word style again, at close brace, apply, and lo and behold, the word blues in the title is now blue. And again, this is independent of any formatting. And you can see it carries it across to all the different tokens and places where I used the title in the document. Even over here on this page 2, it still made it blue because that was something I inserted into the actual project info. So if you wanted to do some really fancy formatting of your text, you can use any of your character styles in the project info. Now you might think, well, I don't really want to have a colored title, but let's say you wanted to put a superscript in somebody's name. Like let's say I wanted to change my name to Mick Larsen, but I wanted to have that superscript C. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the project info, and before my name there, I'm going to add an M and then a C. But this time I'm going to put in all of that style token, and I'm going to this time call it super, because remember that's what I called my superscript character style. And then I'm going to do the same closing formula. I'm going to hit apply, and you can see it added Mick in front of my name, and the C is now superscript because that was the character style I assigned. Okay, our next tip, guess what? Those character styles, we can also use those in the layout names of our parts. So I went ahead and I typed in a formula for superscript around the word alto in my alto 2 part. So you can see when I go down into the part name, you can see now the title of the part is superscripted. So just like the previous section, we can actually use that for another layer of formatting. Now remember, when you go into that character styles, there's a whole bunch of different options here. Now I just chose superscript, but I could have also underlined it, I could overline it, I could strike it out. And the nice thing is, once you establish a character style, you can always go back and amend it, and it'll actually auto-update in your part. So this is actually a great thing because I don't have to go in and retype in the formula. I can literally just use the character style to get the look I'm looking for, and then I can go back and change it. Another nice element of this too is the fact that you can also use this to change fonts. You can change the styles just like with the bold and underline. You can change cases. You can do all sorts of different things that, again, you're able to go back and access after you've already done it. So our next text tip is using the tokens for getting flats and sharps and other music text into our titles. So let's say on my trumpet part 1 here, I didn't want it to look like a B, I wanted an actual flat symbol. So if I went into the name here and I, under the layouts on setup menu, and I renamed this, and then I'm going to replace the letter B with the token of flat. And again, the formula for tokens is always open brace, at, the words that you need, at, and a close brace. And you can see that it actually changed that letter B into a literal flat. So if you want to add it, say a B flat clarinet or an E flat horn, this is the way of adding the flat symbol. Now for my next tip, this is a way, especially on the Mac, of getting to more types of symbols without having to remember a bunch of key commands. So let's say on my trumpet 2 part, I wanted it to be a B treble clef. I don't know why, but let's say I did. Now, there's not a way in a token to do this. However, if we were to go in and hit rename, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete out that lowercase b, but this time I'm going to hit the key on my Mac keyboard that's the function key. It's FN and it has a little world on it. When I hit this button, it will load my character viewer. Now, sometimes when it loads, it's going to load a smaller version that really just has emojis on it. And you might think, oh, that's not what I was looking for. But fortunately speaking, you can actually get to the more advanced window if you go back into that same window by closing it, and I hit the key again. You'll see that it's asking me if I want to use this emoji, but I hit the little down arrow. And then there's this little icon down here on the bottom, which brings up the advanced menu. And now I have access to everything. And look, I have a whole category for musical symbols. Now, if you don't see the musical symbols, if you come up here to this little options box, you can go into the customize list. And from here, you'll see there's a whole bunch of different things that aren't automatically there, including language symbols and other things. And one of them is musical symbols, which I added, of course. And it will insert that wherever I have my cursor. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rename my trumpet part again. And I'm going to, now that I have my cursor back, I'm going to double click on the treble clef, and you'll see that it added a treble clef to the text. So thanks so very much for watching this Dorico video. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you're looking for more help, please check out my Patreon page. On my Patreon page, paid subscribers actually get free one-on-one help with their Dorico every month as part of your subscription, as well as you get access to some of my extra videos, my Dorico templates, and other things like that. So please check out those things on my Patreon page. You can also find some of this information on my home page where I have a special spot in my online store for Dorico templates and other things. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. I really enjoy doing these videos, and I really want to help you learn more about Dorico and other related items. The comments, the likes, the subscriptions, they all go to show that the YouTube algorithm should be presenting these videos. And again, it really helps out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'm going to catch you next time.